What if I told you that the doubt in your mind was never yours, not born with you, not written into your soul, installed, installed by repetition, by years of watching people settle, by hearing be realistic from men who quietly surrendered their own dreams? You were not born questioning yourself. You were trained to hesitate, trained to second guess your power, trained to walk like a loser in a life you were meant to win. But listen to me now. Before anyone told you what you couldn't do, there was a different version of you. A boy who moved before he asked, who tried before he doubted, who didn't know the word impossible. Only I'll do it. That boy is not dead. He is buried under other people's fears, other people's opinions, other people's limits. And today, we are not here for motivation. We are here for reprogramming. We are here to take your mind back from the voices that never built anything, never risked anything, never acted like they were meant to win. If you stay with me, not half listening, not drifting, but fully present, if you breathe these words, speak them out loud, and return to them daily, your identity will begin to shift. Not in theory, in reality, in how you walk, how you decide, how you face fear. This is not a speech. This is a command to your subconscious mind. From this moment forward, you will not act like a man who hopes to win someday. You will act like a man who was meant to win now. Doubt isn't yours. It was installed. And today, we uninstall it. From the moment you were born, you carried no hesitation, no fear of failure, no voice in your mind telling you to be careful. You came into this world wired for exploration, curiosity, and forward motion. Watch any child take his first steps. He doesn't negotiate with himself. He doesn't ask for permission. He doesn't wonder if he has the talent, the skill, or the right to stand. He simply tries. And if he falls, he tries again, because doubt has not yet been taught to him. Fear has not yet been modeled. Limitation has not yet been installed. But as you grow older, something shifts slowly, quietly, without your consent. The world begins to speak, and you begin to listen. You see men shrink. You hear people laugh at big dreams. You watch adults settle for lives they never wanted. And piece by piece, your natural confidence is overwritten by borrowed fears. Someone tells you to be realistic. Someone else says, people like us don't get that far. You watch powerful men act powerless. You watch dreamers silence themselves. You learn to fit into cages you were never designed to enter. Doubt becomes a habit, not a truth. Not an instinct, but a habit, a reflex created through repetition. It slips into your identity, not because you chose it, but because no one told you to reject it. And soon, the hesitation that never belonged to you begins to feel familiar. You start to think it's who you are. But hear me clearly, doubt is not identity. Doubt is conditioning. Every time you held back, every time you questioned your own worth, every time you hesitated at the edge of a decision, those moments were not reflections of your true nature. They were echoes of the environment you grew up in. You were absorbing limits from people who never broke their own. You were learning hesitation from those who feared change. You were copying patterns of smallness from those who accepted less than what they were capable of. But the truth is this: your true nature is not small. Your true nature is not hesitant. Your true nature is not doubtful. Before the world shaped you, you were built for boldness. Your mind was created to imagine. Your spirit was wired to rise. You were designed to build, to lead, to stretch beyond comfort, to chase visions that others consider impossible. That is why doubt feels painful to you, because it does not belong. A lion locked in a small cage does not settle, it suffers. And you, my friend, have been suffering not because you are weak, but because you are powerful, living beneath your design. But today marks a turning point, because once you understand that doubt is learned, you realize something extraordinary. Anything learned can be unlearned, and anything programmed can be rewritten. It begins with remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. It begins with recognizing that hesitation is not a personality trait, it is an infection. And like any infection, it dies when you stop feeding it. How do you starve doubt? By refusing to rehearse it, by refusing to speak in the language of limitation, by refusing to act like the man who fears the outcome. You break the lie of doubt by moving before fear has a voice, by deciding before hesitation wakes up, by reclaiming the identity that was stolen from you, because beneath every layer of conditioning, beneath every scar of the past, beneath every story someone else wrote for you, there is a builder, there is a fighter, there is a man who is not made to question, but to command, not made to shrink, but to rise, not made to hope for victory someday, but to act like he was meant to win now. And in this chapter, we strip doubt of its disguise. We call it what it is, a lie that ends today. You do not become powerful by accident. You become powerful by returning to who you were before the world dimmed your fire. If chapter 1 exposed the lie of doubt, then chapter 2 reveals the truth that replaces it. Identity is not discovered, identity is decided. You are not wandering through life hoping to stumble upon confidence, purpose, and certainty. These qualities do not appear through luck, timing, or perfect circumstances. They emerge the moment you choose who you will be. You were not born questioning your worth. You were not born waiting for permission to take action. You were not born hoping someone would validate your dreams. Those habits came later, shaped by people who forgot their own greatness. The real you, the one buried beneath hesitation and conditioned fear, is still intact. He's not gone. He's waiting for you to call him back. And that is the work of identity, not to invent a new self, but to return to the original one, the bold one, the decisive one, the one who moved without doubt because doubt did not belong in his atmosphere. That version of you did not look for signs to begin. He created them. He did not wait for confidence. He acted, and confidence followed him like a shadow. Here is the truth that changes everything. Your identity is built not from memory, but from repetition. Who you believe you are is simply who you've practiced being. If you rehearse doubt, you become a man who doubts. If you rehearse hesitation, you become a man who freezes. If you rehearse smallness, you become a man who accepts crumbs. But if you rehearse certainty even when you don't feel it, something powerful happens. Your subconscious mind begins to shift. Your decisions begin to change. Your presence begins to sharpen. Because the subconscious does not obey logic, it obeys repetition. And this is why spoken identity is one of the most powerful forces in Napoleon Hill's entire philosophy. Autosuggestion was never meant to be a feel-good idea. It was a weapon, a tool, a system for installing a new identity through the power of repeated command. When you speak the words, "I am the man who decides," "I am the man who moves," "I am the man who wins," you are not describing yourself. You are training yourself. You are instructing your subconscious to follow your voice rather than your past. Understand this: you cannot rise higher than the identity you have accepted. If you see yourself as average, you will never act extraordinary. If you see yourself as limited, you will never cross the borders of your current life. If you see yourself as unworthy, you will sabotage every opportunity that comes near you. But if you choose decisively to adopt the identity of a builder, a leader, a man of fire and direction, then every choice you make begins aligning with that identity. The way you speak, the way you move, the way you confront challenges, all of it begins shifting because identity is the root of all action. This is why the greatest mistake most men make is waiting for life to validate them. They believe results create identity. But the great achievers understood the opposite. Identity creates results. Edison didn't wait for the light bulb to work before calling himself an inventor. Ford didn't wait for approval before calling himself a builder. Carnegie didn't wait for wealth before calling himself a man of destiny. They chose the identity first, and the world adjusted. So now the question becomes, who have you decided to be? Not who you were yesterday, not who others think you are, not who your mistakes suggest, but who you choose right now to embody. Are you the man who waits, or the man who executes, the man who fears, or the man who builds, the man who hopes to win one day, or the man who acts like he was meant to win now? Identity begins with a decision, and the moment that decision is made, doubt loses its power. Today, you return to yourself, not the smaller you that life tried to shape, but the original you, the unstoppable you, the you that was meant to win. Your mind does not follow reality. It follows repetition, and whatever you repeat, you become. If identity is the foundation, then autosuggestion is the tool that sculpts it. Napoleon Hill called it one of the most powerful laws ever given to man, and most men never use it. They think belief is something that happens to them. They wait to feel ready, to feel confident, to feel motivated. But confidence doesn't appear through emotion. Motivation doesn't arrive through inspiration. Identity is not delivered by chance. Identity is installed. And the installation happens through autosuggestion, the deliberate, repeated feeding of the subconscious mind with clear, commanding language that reshapes your beliefs, your decisions, and ultimately your destiny. Here is what most people never understand. Your subconscious mind is not logical. It is obedient. It does not separate truth from lies. It does not question your declarations. It does not analyze, argue, or negotiate. It accepts whatever you repeat with intensity. This is why a man who continually jokes that he is lazy eventually becomes lazy. Why a man who says he always fails begins to sabotage himself. Why a man who repeats that he is unlucky, unworthy, or not the type to succeed watches life reflect those beliefs back to him. Their subconscious is not punishing them. It is following instructions. Instructions given by their own voice. Now flip the equation. Imagine what happens when the instructions change. Imagine what happens when a man begins speaking in the language of certainty, decision, strength, and inevitability. That man becomes unstoppable, because autosuggestion is not positive thinking. It is identity programming. It is mental engineering. It is the rewiring of the internal voice that governs every action you take. When you say, "I move before fear speaks," I do not hesitate. My decisions are final. I was meant to win. You are not describing your current self. You are training the future one. You are giving the subconscious a new script that it will begin to execute automatically. This is why Ford, Edison, and Carnegie became giants, not because they had more talent than everyone else, but because they repeated belief until belief became law. Edison didn't just invent the light bulb, he invented the identity of a man who never stops. Carnegie didn't just build an empire, he built the identity of a man who must rise. Ford didn't just create automobiles, he created the identity of a man who decides, and the world obeys. Autosuggestion was their weapon. Autosuggestion was their advantage. Autosuggestion was their daily ritual. And it must become yours. Because every time you declare who you are, you reinforce a neural pathway. Every time you speak with certainty, your subconscious tightens its allegiance to that identity. Every time you assert your new frame, the old one weakens. This is not theory. This is neuroscience. This is how the brain rewires itself through repetition. So here is your task, not tomorrow, not when you feel like it, but today. Create your identity script. Short, powerful, direct. A handful of sentences that define the man you choose to be. Speak them every morning before the world speaks to you. Speak them every night before sleep. When the subconscious is most open, speak them when fear rises. Speak them when hesitation knocks. Speak them until your voice becomes the law inside your own mind. Say it now, I do not drift. I decide. I do not wait. I move. I do not doubt. I build. I act like I was meant to win. Because once the subconscious accepts this identity, something incredible happens. You no longer force yourself to be disciplined. You are disciplined. You no longer try to be confident. You are confident. You no longer think about winning. You expect to win. Autosuggestion is not magic. It is alignment. Alignment between identity, intention, and action. And once aligned, you become inevitable. Greatness is not born. It is constructed through belief, identity, and decisive repetition. When most people study history, they look for secrets. They assume great men possess supernatural talent, impossible intelligence, or rare opportunities. But if you listen closely to the stories of the giants Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Andrew Carnegie, you will discover something vastly different. Their greatness was not mystical. It was structural. It was built on identity, belief, and the refusal to surrender to doubt. Henry Ford, the man who bent reality through decision. Henry Ford was not born into wealth. He was not academically gifted. He did not inherit a foundation of privilege or advantage. Yet he became one of the most influential builders in modern history. Why? Because Ford understood something profound. Belief is not emotion. Belief is command. When his own engineers, men with higher degrees, more credentials, and stronger technical backgrounds told him an 8-cylinder engine in a single block was impossible, Ford did not argue. He did not ask for more opinions. He did not revise his goal. He simply said, produce it anyway. And when they failed, he repeated the same phrase. Not once, not twice, but over and over until the result he demanded became reality. This is not the story of mechanical genius. This is the story of identity. Ford had already decided who he was, a man who makes decisions and does not retreat from them. And because he carried that identity with unshakable certainty, the world eventually followed it. Thomas Edison's failure as fuel, identity as armor. If Ford's genius was decisiveness, Edison's genius was repetition. Thomas Edison failed more than 1,000,000 times while attempting to create a working light bulb. 10,000 failures would break the average man. 10,000 failures would convince most people that the idea is impossible. But Edison did not see failure the way others did. His identity reframed every attempt. When asked about his countless setbacks, he replied, "I have not failed. I've just found 1,0,0,0,0 ways that won't work." This was not optimism. This was programming. This was autosuggestion in action. He repeated a mental script so powerful, so relentless, that doubt couldn't survive in his atmosphere. His belief did not come from success. His belief created the success. Edison didn't wait to feel confident. He acted from a place of inevitability. That is why he succeeded where everyone else quit. His identity was not built on results. His results were built on identity. Andrew Carnegie, the power of a chosen identity. Carnegie arrived in America as a poor immigrant boy with no resources, no connections, and no roadmap to wealth. Yet he became the richest man of his time. The world calls that luck. Napoleon Hill knew better. Hill observed Carnegie closely and revealed the truth. Carnegie's greatness came from one thing: definiteness of purpose. Carnegie treated belief not as something optional or emotional, but as a structural requirement. He instructed young men in his mentorship to write their chief aim and read it aloud every morning and every night. He believed, deeply and fiercely, that identity created destiny. Carnegie was not wealthy because he felt capable. He was wealthy because he decided he must rise and then aligned every thought, action, and habit with that identity. The pattern you can no longer ignore. You are not different from these men. You do not need their circumstances. You do not need their intelligence. You do not need their starting point. What you need is the one thing they all had in common: a chosen identity, reinforced by daily repetition, executed through decisive action. Ford decided, Edison repeated, Carnegie believed, and each of them acted like they were meant to win long before the world agreed with them. The question now is not whether these principles work. History has answered that for you. The only question left is this: will you adopt their habits? Or will you continue borrowing doubt from men who never built anything at all? Indecision is the seedbed of fear. Decision is the birthplace of power. If identity is the foundation and autosuggestion is the tool, then decision is the ignition. It is the spark that turns belief into motion and motion into destiny. No man becomes powerful while hesitating. No builder shapes his future while waiting for every doubt to disappear. The world does not reward the man who thinks about it. It rewards the man who decides. Understand this clearly. Fear does not paralyze you. Indecision does. The moment you pause, the mind fills the silence with doubt. The moment you hesitate, fear begins constructing its cage. The moment you question yourself, you invite the old identity back to the throne. Indecision is not harmless. It is expensive. It costs you momentum, confidence, clarity, and opportunity. It teaches your subconscious that you cannot trust your own word. Each time you delay, you strengthen the identity of a man who wavers. Each time you decide quickly and firmly, you strengthen the identity of a man who leads. Napoleon Hill discovered a pattern among the world's greatest achievers. Successful men make decisions quickly and change them slowly. If ever, unsuccessful men make decisions slowly and change them quickly. Why? Because decision is not about knowing the perfect path. Decision is about declaring the direction and letting clarity form through movement. You cannot think your way into certainty. You move your way into certainty. Henry Ford embodied this truth when his engineers insisted an idea was impossible. Ford didn't delay the decision. He didn't schedule more meetings or ask for more research. He didn't soften his conviction to make others comfortable. Ford simply said, "Produce it anyway." And because he decided, the world bent to that decision. When he committed to the Model T, he shut down every other model, even when his board disagreed. That is not stubbornness. That is leadership. Decision draws a line. Decision creates focus. Decision eliminates noise. Thomas Edison lived by the same law. Imagine failing thousands of times and still moving with certainty. Imagine attempting something the entire scientific community believed to be impossible and refusing to negotiate with doubt. Edison's power was not in his invention. It was in his finality. Once he decided to create the electric light, the decision was fixed. His results simply caught up. Charles M. Schwab understood this too. When Andrew Carnegie placed him at the head of U.S. Steel, Schwab didn't ask for time to think it over. He didn't seek public approval or emotional validation. He said yes and figured out the details through action. His decisiveness created momentum that reshaped an industry. Now look at your own life. Where have you waited too long? Where have you allowed hesitation to take root? Where have you delayed a decision that could have changed everything? Every day you hesitate, fear grows stronger. Every day you decide. Your identity becomes sharper. Decision is not dramatic. It is not emotional. It is not loud. Decision is quiet power, the kind that rewrites your destiny in a single sentence. Say this aloud: my decisions are final. My movement is immediate. My word is law. This is the language of a man who leads. This is the mindset of a man who wins. Because the man who cannot decide will always be ruled by those who can. But the man who decides quickly with purpose, with clarity, with conviction becomes unstoppable. He becomes the master of his fate. He becomes the architect of his future. And from this moment forward, that man is you. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Now, because destiny belongs to the man who decides. Emotion is unstable. Faith is unbreakable. The man who follows emotion drifts. The man who follows faith becomes inevitable. Most men never rise. Not because they lack talent or intelligence, but because they misunderstand the difference between emotion and faith. Emotion is a reaction. Faith is a decision. Emotion fluctuates. Faith anchors. Emotion follows circumstances. Faith commands them. And yet, the average man waits for emotion before he moves. He waits to feel motivated. He waits to feel confident. He waits for the mood to be perfect, for the timing to be ideal, for the fear to disappear. But here's the truth you must accept if you want to win. Emotion is the worst compass you could ever follow. Emotion lies. Emotion exaggerates. Emotion speaks from old wounds, old patterns, old versions of you that no longer align with who you are becoming. Faith, on the other hand, speaks from your future, from the identity you chose in silence, from the man you are training yourself to be. Faith does not need proof. Faith does not require comfort. Faith does not depend on motivation. Faith acts and lets evidence show up later. Consider Henry Ford. He did not always feel strong. He did not always feel validated. Most of the world doubted him. Many of his own team disagreed with him. But Ford did not follow emotion. He followed identity. He followed faith in his vision. And because he moved before he felt ready, the world eventually caught up. Thomas Edison faced failure on a scale few men could survive, thousands of unsuccessful attempts, endless criticism, exhaustion, public doubt. All of it could have crushed a man led by emotion. But Edison wasn't moved by how he felt. He was moved by what he believed. That's why every failure became fuel instead of defeat. His faith was not emotional. It was structural. Andrew Carnegie understood this principle deeply. As a young immigrant boy with nothing, emotion would have told him to play small, to settle, to accept the life he was born into. But faith whispered something different. Faith told him he was meant for more. Faith instructed him to rise. And because he obeyed faith over feeling, he became one of the most powerful men in history. And now we arrive at the truth most men never hear. You do not need to feel powerful to act powerfully. You need to act powerfully until the feeling aligns. Your brain is a follower, not a leader. It learns from repetition, not emotion. It adapts to what you do consistently, not what you feel occasionally. This is why the man who waits for confidence never gains it, and the man who moves without it eventually commands it. Faith is built through action. When you speak belief, even when your voice shakes, when you move toward the goal, even when fear screams, when you follow through, even when emotion begs for comfort, each act of discipline strengthens your identity. Each step taken in uncertainty rewires the mind. Each decision you refuse to reconsider builds faith like muscle. Say this clearly: I do not follow emotion. I follow purpose. Because the man who leads from emotion is a slave to the past, but the man who leads from faith is guided by the future he is creating. Emotion says, wait until you feel ready. Faith says, move, and readiness will follow. Emotion says, it's too hard. Faith says, I will grow into it. Emotion says, this fear means stop. Faith says, this fear means I'm on the right path. You must choose now which master you follow: the unstable moods of the moment, or the identity of the man you were meant to become. Repeat this: I act until I feel powerful. I lead my mind. My mind does not lead me, because confidence is not found in emotion. Confidence is earned in motion, and motion is the language of faith. From this moment forward, you no longer wait for the feeling, you act. You move. You decide, because the man who can move without perfect emotion becomes the man emotion eventually obeys. This is how you rise. This is how you become unshakable. This is how you act like you were meant to win. No man becomes unstoppable while keeping an exit. Retreat is the silent partner of doubt. Remove it, and you remove fear. There is a moment in every man's rise when progress no longer depends on motivation, inspiration, or even belief, but on commitment. Not the soft kind, not the conditional kind, but the kind that burns bridges, closes escape routes, and eliminates every option except forward. This is the principle known throughout history as burning the boats, and it is one of the most powerful psychological tools ever used by great leaders, builders, and conquerors of destiny. When Hernán Cortés arrived in Mexico in 1519, facing an empire that dwarfed his forces, he made a decision few would dare to make. He burned the ships that brought them there. His men had no way back, no retreat, no second plan. They would win, or they would perish. And though the story is brutal, the principle is immortal. Commitment sharpens the mind. Commitment eliminates fear. Commitment turns maybe into destiny. But this principle didn't just belong to warriors. It belonged to the titans of achievement as well. Henry Ford, no plan B. Only purpose. When Ford committed to the Model T, he shut down every other vehicle in production against the fears of his board, against the skepticism of the market, against the comfort of staying diversified. He simplified. He focused. He removed every escape route from his vision. Why? Because Ford understood something most men never learn. A man with a backup plan never gives his full power to plan A. When there is always a way out, the mind resists giving everything it has. But when retreat is gone, the mind awakens. It becomes sharp. It becomes inventive. It becomes relentless. Ford wasn't merely building a car. He was building a commitment so final that the world had no choice but to bend to it. Thomas Edison failure. Without escape, Edison's power didn't come from talent, it came from refusal. Thousands of failed attempts, years without results. Relentless criticism, yet never once did he build an exit. Never once did he entertain the idea of quitting. He didn't say, "If this doesn't work, I'll try something else." No, his identity was sealed. He decided he would create electric light, and the decision was irreversible. Men underestimate the strength that comes from eliminating escape routes. When you stop negotiating with failure, failure loses its leverage. When you stop preparing for defeat, the mind stops expecting it. Andrew Carnegie, commitment as identity. Carnegie began life with nothing, but he removed retreat from the start. He didn't approach success as a possibility. He approached it as a requirement. He didn't say, "I hope to rise." He said, "I must rise." He adopted the identity of a man who would not return to poverty, not emotionally, not mentally, not strategically. Carnegie was not experimenting with success. He was committed to it. And because he removed retreat, ambition became obligation, and obligation became empire. The retreat you must now burn. Every man has a retreat, a habit, a excuse, a fallback, a just-in-case door. For some, it's a job they hate but keep because it's safe. For others, it's the voice they silence because they fear criticism. For many, it's the dream they postpone because they're waiting for perfection. These are not safety nets. They are cages, cages that weaken identity, slow momentum, and keep you acting like a man who might win instead of a man who must win. Say this clearly: there is no retreat. My commitment is final, because commitment is the great separator. The average man will always keep a back door open. The destined man closes it himself. And once the door behind you is gone, something extraordinary happens. Fear stops whispering. Doubt loses its voice. Your mind sharpens. Your identity hardens. Your forward motion accelerates. Because now finally winning is not a preference. It is the only option. Burn the boats. My friend, let the old identity die in the flames, and let the man who was meant to win rise from the ashes. Clarity is not found in thinking. Clarity is forged in motion. The man who waits for approval becomes a prisoner of hesitation. There is a moment in every man's journey when he must confront a harsh truth. Most people wait their entire lives to begin. They wait for the perfect timing. They wait for the fear to fade. They wait for permission, validation, encouragement, guarantees. But greatness has no patience for waiting. Greatness belongs to the man who moves first, who acts boldly before certainty arrives, who trusts his direction enough to take the step without asking anyone to approve it. This is the law Napoleon Hill saw in every titan he ever studied. Action is the cure for doubt. Motion is the cure for fear. Execution is the cure for confusion. The average man believes clarity leads to action. The successful man understands action, creates clarity, Henry Ford movement before understanding. Ford did not wait to know every detail. He did not wait for the industry to support him. He did not wait for the data, for the experts, or for permission. When he envisioned a car for the common man, he moved toward the vision immediately. He experimented. He built. He failed. He refined. And clarity revealed itself through action, not before it. Most men want certainty first. Ford created certainty by stepping into uncertainty. Thomas Edison, learning through motion. Edison did not sit in a room thinking endlessly about how to create electric light. He acted over and over, 10,000 experiments, each one a small step forward, each one revealing information he could never have discovered by theorizing. Edison understood something most men never learn. Knowledge gained in motion is infinitely more valuable than knowledge gained in thought. The man who hesitates tries to think his way into confidence. The man who rises acts his way into confidence. Charles M. Schwab leading through decisive execution. Schwab's rise wasn't built on intelligence alone. It was built on his bias for action. When Andrew Carnegie asked him to lead an unprecedented industrial consolidation, Schwab didn't say, "Let me analyze it." He didn't ask for more time. He didn't request instructions. He said yes and created clarity by moving. Leaders do not wait for perfect information. Leaders create direction through execution. Why you must stop asking for permission. Most men live small because they think they need someone to validate their dream. They look around for applause, approval, or reassurance. But listen carefully. The world does not give permission to the man who hesitates. The world adjusts to the man who acts. Every time you ask for approval, you weaken your identity. Every time you wait for confidence, you strengthen your doubt. Every time you pause to analyze the fear, you teach your mind to retreat. You must learn the discipline of moving before your emotions agree. Motion rewires the mind. Your subconscious doesn't learn through thinking. It learns through doing. It follows your patterns, your decisions, your behaviors. When you act immediately, your confidence increases. Your identity sharpens. Your fear loses leverage. Action communicates a message to your subconscious far more powerful than words. I am the man who moves. And soon, the mind begins obeying this identity automatically. From this moment forward, execution over permission, you must now train yourself to act before you negotiate with fear. Move before your feelings catch up. Say yes before your doubt whispers its excuses. Start before you feel prepared. Because readiness is not a starting point. Readiness is a result. Say this aloud: I do not wait. I do not ask. I do not hesitate. I act. And clarity follows. This is how empires are built. This is how leaders rise. This is how the man who was meant to win becomes the man who does win. Do not look around anymore. Do not wait for applause or approval. Do not ask for permission from people who never gave permission to themselves. Move and let the world adjust. Doubt is not a warning. Doubt is a habit, and habits can be starved, overwritten, and destroyed. By now, you understand the architecture of power. Identity creates belief. Belief creates decision. Decision creates action. Action reinforces identity. But there is one enemy that tries to break this cycle every time: doubt. Doubt is subtle. It rarely shouts. It whispers. It whispers in the quiet moments. When you're alone with your thoughts, it whispers right before you act, giving you a reason to wait. It whispers after a failure, telling you to reconsider your path. But here's the truth most men never grasp. Doubt does not need more analysis. Doubt needs elimination. You do not outthink doubt. You outmove it. Doubt survives only because you keep feeding it with attention, with hesitation, with emotional negotiation, and every time you pause to evaluate, every time you entertain its possibilities, every time you let it speak twice, you strengthen it to kill doubt. You must treat it like what it is, a parasite, a mental virus, a reflex programmed by fear, not a signal from your destiny. Abraham Lincoln's strength in silence. Lincoln did not rise because he had no fear. He rose because he refused to give fear authority. During the Civil War, the darkest chapter of American history, Lincoln faced failure, division, loss, and unbearable pressure. Emotions screamed. The world doubted him, but Lincoln acted anyway. He carried himself with the conviction of a man who believed, this burden is mine because I am the one who must bear it. He didn't negotiate with doubt. He outlawed it. Andrew Carnegie drowning doubt in purpose. Carnegie trained himself to eliminate doubt through repetition. Every morning and every night, he affirmed his definite chief aim. He repeated his vision with such intensity that doubt could not survive in the atmosphere of his mind. His belief was not emotional, it was mechanical, disciplined, installed. Carnegie didn't wait to feel powerful. He used repetition to become powerful. Henry Ford, internal repetition, louder than external noise. People doubted Ford constantly. Engineers doubted him. Bankers doubted him. The press doubted him. Competitors mocked him. But Ford had a mental advantage. His inner voice was louder than their opinions. He had programmed himself through countless repetitions of certainty. He didn't argue with doubt. He didn't try to explain his vision. He simply acted as though success was inevitable. And because he treated doubt as irrelevant, doubt became irrelevant. The process of killing doubt. There is a system, a formula for eliminating doubt at its root. 1, do not argue with doubt. Replace it. The moment doubt speaks, cut it off with a command, I do not live in hesitation. I move in fire. 2, do not analyze fear, starve it. Fear grows when you think, it dies when you act. 3, do not repeat weakness. Repeat identity. Every time you declare your chosen identity, you push the old voice further from the throne. 4, do not wait for confidence. Build it through motion. Confidence is installed through action, not emotion. Why doubt returns and why it no longer matters, doubt may still appear, especially in moments of fatigue or change. But the difference now is this doubt can appear, but it cannot stay. It can whisper, but it cannot influence. It can knock, but it cannot enter. Because the man you are becoming has no seat for doubt at his table. Your new identity leaves no room for the old reflex. Your new repetition leaves no oxygen for fear. Your new decisions leave no pathways backward. Say this aloud slowly, clearly. Dominantly, I do not negotiate with doubt. I do not explain myself to fear. My belief is my identity. My identity is my weapon. Repeat these words until your nervous system accepts them as law. Because the man who kills doubt becomes unstoppable. And the man who is unstoppable becomes inevitable. And the man who is inevitable wins. This is your turning point. The old voice dies here. The new identity takes over. And once a man's identity changes, his destiny cannot refuse him. You do not become a winner someday. You embody the identity now, and the world adjusts. Everything in your life up to this moment has led you to one realization. Winning is not an outcome. Winning is an identity. The men who shaped history understood this truth intuitively. They did not wait for evidence before adopting the posture of greatness. They carried themselves as victors long before the world recognized them as such. And because they lived from identity rather than circumstance, their reality eventually bent to match the standard they set for themselves. Now it is your turn. The man you were meant to be is no longer a distant possibility. He is here, pressing against your consciousness, demanding to rise. He is the version of you who does not hesitate, who does not drift, who does not negotiate with fear or emotion. He is decisive. He is disciplined. He is directed by purpose, not by moods. And his presence becomes undeniable the moment you choose to embody him, not in theory, but in action, behavior, posture, tone, and decision. Winning begins in how you carry yourself. A man's identity is revealed long before his results. It appears in how he walks into a room, in how he speaks, in how he makes decisions, in how he responds to setbacks. You can tell immediately when a man believes in himself and when he doesn't. And belief is not arrogance. Belief is alignment. Alignment between who you say you are and how you behave. When you act like a man who was meant to win, you stop leaking energy through doubt. You stop chasing approval. You stop apologizing for your ambition. You stop pretending you are average. You start moving with a quiet certainty, the kind that shifts atmospheres. Winning is a standard, not a surprise. The world treats winning like a lucky accident, but winners know better. Winning is the natural result of identity multiplied through repetition. A man who wins consistently is a man who insists on consistency over comfort, execution over emotion, direction over distraction, commitment over convenience, purpose over popularity. This is why winning eventually becomes predictable for him. He has trained himself to behave like the kind of man to whom winning must happen. Most men make the mistake of waiting for results to validate their identity. But champions do the opposite. They adopt the identity, and the results follow, aligning behavior with identity. If you believe you are meant to win, your behavior must reflect that belief. A man meant to win does not procrastinate, he executes. A man meant to win does not complain, he adjusts. A man meant to win does not fear hard days, he grows from them. A man meant to win does not wait for clarity, he creates clarity through action. A man meant to win does not talk like a victim, he speaks like a builder. Winning is not random, it is cumulative. Every decision you make becomes a brick in the structure of the man you are becoming. Letting the old self die, you cannot rise while dragging your old identity with you. You cannot build while protecting the version of yourself that hesitated, doubted, avoided, retreated. That man must die quietly, permanently, without ceremony. He has served his time. He carried the doubt. He absorbed the fear, but his chapter is over. From this moment forward, he is no longer you. Sealing the new identity? Say this with force, with finality: I am the man who wins. I move like it. I speak like it. I decide like it. This is not performance. This is embodiment. You are not faking confidence. You are practicing identity. And identity, repeated long enough, becomes truth every day. From now until your final breath, you are to live as if victory is your baseline, not your reward. As if success is your nature, not your surprise. As if the world expects you to rise because you expect it from yourself. The man who was meant to win this chapter is not about becoming someone new. It is about revealing the man you were always meant to be, the man buried under conditioning, the man muted by hesitation, the man you are reawakening now. Walk forward with this truth embedded in your mind. Winners are not chosen. Winners are forged. Forged in identity, forged in discipline, forged in repetition, forged in the refusal to be anything less than inevitable. And from this day on, you live not as someone hoping to win, but as someone who was meant to win. This is the moment your old self dies, and the man who was meant to win steps forward. Listen to me and listen with finality. You did not come this far to remain the same. You did not walk through every storm, every scar, every night of doubt just to return to who you used to be. That version of you, the hesitant one, the one who questioned his worth, the one who waited for permission, he is gone, buried, burned, done. The man who rises from this message is not a man who hopes for victory. He is a man who expects it, a man who moves with purpose, a man who decides without apology, a man who walks with the posture of certainty long before the world sees the results, because identity comes first, and results bow to identity. From this moment forward, you will not act like someone trying to win someday. You will act like someone who was meant to win right now, in your voice, in your choices, in your execution, in your discipline, in your presence. Say it aloud. One last time, I do not wait. I do not doubt. I do not retreat. I decide. I act. I win. Now here is what you do next. If this message woke something inside you, do not let it fade. Hit like so your mind marks this moment. Hit subscribe so this identity becomes your environment. And turn on notifications so every new video strengthens the man you are becoming. And comment below, I was meant to win. Declare it publicly. Put your old identity on record and replace it with fire. This is not motivation. This is the new law of your mind. Repeat this video until the identity becomes permanent, until doubt cannot find you anymore, until you walk like the man you were always meant to be. Your rise begins now, and the world will adjust.